to say thank you for my family for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of my grandfather. I would like to start by saying that my grandfather was a very special man to me, that led by example. He was like a dad to me growing up. He raised me since I was a child up until now. I've had the privilege to live with him for 38 years of my life in his home. I thank God for this man, for providing for me and my family, and for all the hard work he has done for my family. My grandpa was a lead foreman for Amtrak. Through all his hard work working for the railroad, he managed to buy property and build 3 houses where me and my family live at now today. 2 of the 3 houses were rentals. One thing that I remember about my grandfather was that he was never a money-hungry man. The reason I say that is because he loved to help people. For instance, the house he was renting in the middle has only had 3 different tenants in my 38 years of living in this property. He could have been renting out the middle house for double of what he charged a month. But he didn't because he had a big heart for people. He was a good man. Another thing that brought him great joy was donating to St. Jude Hospital to help the sick. Throughout his career working, he managed to buy a motorhome. I remember the times growing up as a kid, him taking us camping in the motorhome to Cachuma Lake for outings, and where all the family got together for Thanksgiving. My grandpa loved all sports. I remember watching baseball games of the Angels with him. He also watched the Dodgers, but deep down inside, I know that he loved the Angels a little bit more than the Dodgers. And believe me, my family let him have it for that, for being an Angels fan, because we're all Dodger fans. Another favorite sport he loved was boxing. I remember a funny story where me and my cousin Brian would fight with boxing gloves on. He used to sit back and watch us fight all the time. Then my cousin Brian would always win me because he was a bully. My cousin Brian thought he could take on anybody until he bet his match with my grandpa. My cousin Brian challenged my grandpa to a fight, and of course my grandpa accepted the challenge. My cousin started to box with him, throwing crazy rights and crazy lefts. Then my grandpa ducked a right hand from him and dropped him with a left hook right on the jaw and laid him out, flat cold. I will tell you one sport that was not for him. That was fishing. I remember this time when we jumped on the boat on the lake to take us fishing, and he threw out the hook and caught himself with the hook on his shirt. So that sport wasn't definitely for him. I remember also in the backyard playing basketball with him one-on-one, and he would beat me all the time with the hook shot. He would never let me win. I was so angry at him and tell him, "Why are you cheating, Grandpa?" But now I know the real reason why he didn't let me win. And that's because he was building me up to become a winner and not to quit. Now I know where I get my competitiveness from. I remember watching boxing with him growing up. He also talked about the jab and how it would keep a bigger man away from you by just sticking that jab in his face. My grandpa loved boxing so much that it made him become a fighter. One day growing up, I remember him coming home in the night as a kid with sunglasses on, and I asked him, "Grandpa, why are you wearing sunglasses in the nighttime?" And he answered me, "Don't worry about it, son." But the majority of the stories I have heard was that he won most of his fights. I remember back in those days, he was drinking pretty often, and that's what caused him to fight a lot. But as we all know, we're not perfect in this world, and sometimes make mistakes. I remember him saying that he wanted to stop drinking, and he locked himself in the bedroom for 2 weeks. The only time he would come out is for dinner, and then back into his bedroom. I knew for a fact that when he was in his bedroom, he was praying to God for help to stop drinking. And God answered his prayers. He never picked up a drink again. He may have been quitting drinking for himself and for the family, but to me, he was setting a great example of faith in God by how he stopped drinking and turned his life around. During my times, growing up as a teenager with my struggles and addictions, looking for an answer from God, I remember my grandpa used to tell me, "You need to get that monkey off your back." And I would tell him, "I don't have a monkey, Grandpa. I have a gorilla on my back." When I was struggling with my addictions, I remember my grandpa's great example of faith when he locked himself in the bedroom for 2 weeks. He was a great example for me of having faith in God and teaching me that God does answer prayers. When I was going through my trials and tribulations in my life, I was able to reflect on my grandpa's example of how to have faith in God and how God answers prayers. So I know that through my grandpa's great faith that he had in God, it helped me to understand God more, to put my faith and trust in him. Since putting my faith in God, I have turned my life around just like him. On the day my grandpa passed, he was surrounded by family. And I began to lead them all in prayer. I was praying to the Lord, thanking him for all the good times we had spent together. I thanked him for providing for my family. And at the end of the prayer, I asked the Lord for his will to be done. I told my grandpa that it's okay. It's time to rest now and go to sleep. Then when I finished praying, I opened my eyes and seen the doctor come inside the room and ask, and his first words were to the family were, "I'm sorry for your loss." I believe God answered our prayers because he died so peacefully after the prayer was done, immediately. Now he is not suffering no more because he's in a better place with all the angels in heaven rejoicing. My family and I have come to an agreement that now he's in heaven resting in paradise. Till we meet again, Grandpa. I love you so much, Grandpa. I love you. Thanks for coming out with me.
For those of you that don't know who I am,